Lesson 1.2 of our California Indian Native Foods unit is titled Pomo Stories. In this lesson, students read and analyze a contemporary Pomo story titled Lizard and Mockingbird Kidnap Rock's Daughters. The goal of this lesson is for students to explore the purpose of oral tradition in teaching lessons about community, respect, and purpose. In this segment, storytelling is used for exploring land stewardship, ecosystem balance, traditional foods, and the cultural importance of fostering a strong, respectful relationship with the natural world of which humans are included. Storytelling in Native culture is essential to the way we teach our history to future generations. The story in this lesson comes with an activity in which students can learn key aspects for the purpose of stories in Pomo oral tradition. Lastly, students will learn from respected elders from Sherwood Valley Band of Pomo Indians as well as Dry Creek Rancheria. Their viewpoints as tribal cultural bearers highlight the value and need for cultural storytelling in the past and present.
My name is Buffy Schmidt. I am from Sherwood Valley Band of Pomo Indians in Willits, California, Noyo Reservation in Fort Bragg, California, and Yoqueo Rancheria in Ukiah, California.
My name's Sherry Smith-Ferry. I'm from Dry Creek Rancheria and Bodega Bay, Miwok ancestry.
Oral history is used by natives to tell our creation stories, tell our oral history, and to teach us how the ways used to be before settlers came and occupied the land that we're on right now. It's our history books. We have textbooks now, but before we had oral, where we sat down at our grandmother's or elders' side or on their knees and listened to the stories of our elders and learned from that way.
Oral history is information that's passed down via people speaking, by word of mouth. And that's how Native people learned about how the world worked and what you should do, what you shouldn't do. You know, it's kind of the operating instructions for a good life. And often it was done through stories.
Oral history is important because if we don't keep telling our stories to our youngsters and our youth, a lot of things will be missing. A lot of things are lost already. Things that we will never know that we've lost because they're not shared anymore. A lot of our elders have passed on. A lot of our tribal cultural people in our tribes have gone on, and these things can't be replaced. So our oral histories are teaching us our old ways, and whenever we have a chance to share that, we should share that with our youth and anybody who would listen.
I think it's actually a much more effective way to teach. And it also immerses you in relationship building with the people that are teaching those stories to you. So I think which is a good thing, I think it forces people into intergenerational relationships, all sorts of relationships. And everybody in a community, in a sense, ends up teaching everybody else. Everybody that you talk to teaches you, versus just sending kids off to have one teacher or, a couple and leaving all of that important knowledge transmission just in that setting to a very small class of people.
The way to teach oral history respectfully is to first find those storytellers in your own family. They're there and they may have forgotten that they know these things because no one's asked them for a long time, because these ways are very old and not shared readily like they used to be, because now we have textbooks, we have pen and paper, we have social media, and a lot of technology that we're learning from. but we still have our cultural people in our families and in our communities that we can still learn from. And to respectfully share those stories, we can go to those leaders, those elders in our tribe and in our communities, and politely ask them, what were the old days like? How were the old ways taught? And would you be willing to share that with me? And to share that is a gift, not something that can be placed a dollar amount on, because a gift is a gift. It's not meant to be bought or given away to somebody else. When somebody gives you a gift, you should hold that and respect that and honor that. And you can honor these storytellers by offering them a gift of something that you've made with your hands. The role that oral history has shaped my personal way that I look at things is through language. Our Northern Pomo language has been recorded and documented by anthropologists and linguists, and it's a toss-up whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, and there's a lot of pros and cons. But if it wasn't for these linguists and anthropologists who went out and recorded our elders, our fluent speakers, a lot of our language would be lost. And I teach Northern Pomo language through recordings from a linguist who went in 1979, recorded fluent speakers in my area, and I'm very fortunate that she did, because we can still learn the correct way to say the words in Northern Pomo language from fluent speakers, because we have those recordings. Other people have commented about how the linguists have written our language in their own terms, using their orthography, using European symbols, when these were orally taught to us. We didn't learn our language or our medicines and our foods by reading a cookbook or reading a textbook. We learned it from being told that and being taught it with hands-on experience.
So a lot of the work I do is community history. And some of it is actually looking at anthropologists' field notes and old letters, old photographs, so lots of different sources of documentary evidence. But another one of the main sources I use is oral histories, both from that have been written down and then also ones that I've done. And I got into, so I have my degree in anthropology because I got into the field because the stories I heard growing up that my family told about itself in our community were different than what was written down in history and in anthropology textbooks at the time. And I actually believed our stories. I mean, I knew our stories were true. And so it was like, people should understand this out in the larger world. They should know this too. And the only way at that point, really, the only way that you could be a part of that, a legitimate part of that conversation, was if you had a higher education degree. So you were seen as having some legitimacy to be able to contribute another point of view to that sort of body of work. So yeah, I got into the work I'm doing through believing in the oral traditions I heard. And the more I've done that work, the more I've understood that there is a tremendous amount of truth in those oral traditions, and that it's multifaceted. think what often happens when things are written down and generalized for sort of histories or textbooks and teaching in classrooms is you have this sort of a narrative that lacks nuance and lacks diversity and lacks a real voice of people's real lived experience. I think if you can illustrate that and bring those voices in and talk about it was a myriad of experiences that people had. I think that much more sort of serves the purpose of telling the truth than just having some generic framework that everybody uses. There's lots of them, but probably the one that's maybe the most relevant to that question is part of our story of creation. And so it's the creation of the people, the humans. And so I would hear this said something like, kind of like in the beginning, there was Old Man Coyote, the old man. They were talking, and Coyote said to the Creator, people, we need to have people. Kind of looking around at the world, we need people. And Creator looks at Coyote and says, no, that's a bad idea. We don't need people. And Coyote, if you know Coyote, he's always wants to have his way and doesn't usually give up easily. So he kept bringing back this idea of people. The land needs people. And Coyote would keep saying, no, I don't think that's a good idea. And the Coyote would yell and he would throw tantrums and kick and scream and bother Creator. Until finally Creator said, okay. So if that's really what you want, we'll go ahead and we'll make people. Katie was so happy. And so Creator said I'm going to tell you how to do this. How we're going to make people is we're going to get feathers. And I want you to go and get me a feather. So Creator says, oh yes, I'll go do that. I want the people. So he says, okay. So go and get me a feather from the bluebird. It's a very beautiful bird. And so Katie runs off and gets him a bluebird feather, brings it back in, and Creator plants it in the ground, plants it in the land, plants it in the ground in Alexander Valley. That feather, they pray, they bless feather, and the feather turns into the Wapo people who live there today. And they were beautiful because the bluebird is so beautiful. And Katie is so happy. So he's like, oh, yeah, these beautiful people. He's like, but we need more. We need more, Creator. Katie goes, okay, if you're sure. And Katie goes, oh, yes. So Creator goes, okay, I want you to get me another feather. Get me the feather of the scrub jay. So Katie goes off, gets feather, puts him in the ground, Windsor, right around here. And if you know scrub jays, you know that they make a racket. Tuck, 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 tuck. And so plants it in the ground, and it's like, okay. And you have these people that just talk, 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 talk. And Katie says, are you happy? And Katie goes, this is great. These people talk. They like to talk like I do. And He's going like, we need more. So Creator goes, ah. So he says, okay, go off and get me the feather from an acorn woodpecker. Okay, he goes and does that and brings it back, and they put it in the ground at Kashaya, near the coast. And that's why the people at Kashaya today, and always have, make the best acorn mush and the best acorn bread, because they come from the acorn woodpecker. So you go through lots of feathers, lots of people, but this is, of course, told by Dry Creek people. So in the end, of course, Creator sends Coyote off to get the feather from the mourning dove, and he puts it in the ground at Dry Creek. And of course, the people of Dry Creek then talk slow, we move slow. They say everything we do is slow, but we always get the job done. And there's lots more about what happens to the people. But sometimes you wonder if Creator wasn't right. Maybe people weren't such a good idea. But it gives you the sense of, this is, and this is what I was always taught growing up, this is the land that we were made for. This is the land that was made for us. Thank you to all of my family and all the elders, all the people that have shared their stories with me over the years. And I'm very happy to share them with anybody who wants to listen.
In this activity, students will answer a few guided questions to help them analyze key lessons about humanity that the story highlights. In order to complete this activity, students must read the entire text to be able to analyze the story and answer the guided questions. Once the questions are complete, the classroom will be able to understand key lessons highlighted in the text. Now that you have learned more about the foundation of policy that affected Native peoples, you will have a true understanding of the complete history of the land you live on today. To continue to learn more about the lands you are a guest on, please visit our Education Center on our website or visit our CIMCC curriculum channel on YouTube. Consider supporting local tribal movements to support local tribes in your region. The development of these educational resources was made possible with the funding from the National Endowment for the Humanities.